Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, September 28th, 2025 in the space and time continuum. And what a week. Again, it's getting more and more intense. It really is. I'm feeling more and more calm. I hope that you're not giving them your fear. We won't give them our fear, like AOC says.
I'm not going to give them my fear.
The tides are turning. Something is shifting. I said that last week, and it's even more so this week. Heather Cox Richardson. If you haven't found her, find her. She puts out a lot of YouTube content, and it's all extremely good and smart. Political analysis. She knows a lot about political history. And she is talking about how everything is shifting. And it's because of the Trump administration trying to make things go in one direction, and they're just making it go in the opposite direction faster and faster. This Charlie Kirk thing, whatever it was, people are not buying the FBI's story. People are not trusting Kash Patel. More and more. And I'm talking about the right-wing gun people, all right? They're the ones who are pushing this charge, asking what happened, because they don't believe any bit of the FBI's story. Nobody at this point believes that Tyler Robinson is the guy who shot him. Probably didn't even touch a gun that day. It's Lee Harvey Oswald all over again. A few people have said this is just like the JFK shooting. You know, people in the grassy knoll, and like I said, whenever it was, was it last week or the week before, right after the Charlie Kirk assassination, about how I went down the rabbit's hole for years trying to figure out what really happened in Dallas when JFK was shot on November 22nd, 1963, when there was only one camera that taped it filmed it in 8mm, and it was withheld from the public for 12 years. We'll never know exactly what happened. Now too much time has gone by, and people were trying to cover it up for so long, and now people can't even remember what it was. There are people alive who don't for sure know who JFK is. So that's how much time has gone by. I was 2 weeks old when he was shot, and that tells you how old I am. Anyway, this Charlie Kirk thing, I don't know if we're going to find out exactly what happened, but it's turning MAGAs against Trump. That's the point I'm making. This Jimmy Kimmel thing, people getting rid of their Disney streaming and Hulu. And apparently they lost more than $4 billion. I heard $4.6 billion in 4 days. So what did they do? In 4 days, Jimmy Kimmel was back on the air. And then Sinclair and whatever the other small fascist entity was going to boycott and not allow the Jimmy Kimmel show to be shown then on their networks. And they had to turn it around as well. And that's because of the power of the people. And I'm hearing talk about the power of the people, even on MSNBC. Kamala Harris is getting out and talking into microphones. She's on her book tour. I got her book. I'm having a blast reading it right now. She said, "Get over the savior complex, that one person is going to save us. You are the leaders who are up for the fight." Those are the words of a true leader. Empowering the people that they are the leader of. by making sure each one of those people knows that they each are also leaders. That's how the world works. We're all finally waking up to that after tens of thousands of years of suppression. The darkness is leaving. It has most of it left last year. It's holding on. I've said it 100 times. It's holding on with just a few fingers left. And pretty soon, those fingers are going to fall to the side as well. The tides are turning also in what the media is reporting about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I'll do a quick report because it's just more of Ukraine basically kicking Russia's ass and Russia not knowing how to react. But it's the collapse of the Kremlin really seems very imminent. It's crazy. I'm looking at the notes for that. I'll go through that afterwards. I want to get to some other stuff. People aren't buying the Tylenol thing. Trump, trying to take RFK's advice, and apparently the information, the person who gave him this information was paid to give him this false information about an ingredient of Tylenol causing autism, even though autism was recognized for the first time in 1911, and Tylenol did not come out till 1951. And by the way, they also recommend a supplement for Tylenol, and it's from a company that Medicaid director Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz from TV, because that's what you have to be to get in the Trump cabinet. You have to be a TV person. He has ownership in the company that they are now advising to supplement Tylenol with that so that he makes more money. Wow. Nobody's going along with we got to send troops into Portland. It's a hellhole. It's a war zone. People are making videos. They're making fun of it. It's funny. They're filming, a tranquil park right down to the main street of downtown. People out having dinner and having a nice time on a beautiful day. That's the hell zone. That's a hellhole. The Pentagon is confused about this. They're like, wait, the commander-in-chief said what? What are we supposed to do? I'm telling him to use full force. That's not language that is used in the Pentagon. So actual Pentagon leaders, not Pete Kegbreath, are going, what? I have no idea what you're saying we're going to do. We're on the cusp of the military now, having to make some serious decisions. Pete Kegbreath, the Secretary of Defense, I will not call him the Secretary of War like he calls himself and how Trump calls him. He is summoning all of the leadership of the entire military from the entire planet into one spot in Virginia. How stupid can you possibly be? We'll see if they all show up. But, what's the motive? Is he going to ask for loyalty to the dictator? And if he does, the military's got some decisions to make. This could be a big turning point. The dictator needs to have the military on his side. This military is not going to take Donald Trump's side. There's a statistic even, how everyone thinks that there's a bunch of maggots in the military. Well, there are some, but the people who have served since 9/11 in the military voted by more than 50%, I think 52%, for Kamala Harris. That's a statistic I just heard yesterday by a really good source. He's a vet, and he was explaining a lot of this. He was explaining how these people have decades of service. The people that Kegbreath wants to be the boss of, wants to boss around, these people are the biggest, they're at the top. They've been in the military for decades. They took an oath decades ago that they have been upholding with no matter who the president has been and no matter who the Secretary of Defense has been. Kegbreath is a comedy meme through most of the military. That's what these actual, people who have been in the military are saying. So what kind of tide is going to turn then? It's either tomorrow or the next day. This is supposed to happen, apparently. What's going to happen? One thing that's not going to happen is apparently Congress is not going to do anything to prevent a government shutdown. That's going to happen on Wednesday. Mike Johnson, the little Johnson, he told everyone to go home. Don't show up for work on Monday and Tuesday. And that's because the person who just won the election, her name is Adelita Grijalva. She just won the election in Arizona, a special election, and she vowed to be the 218th signature. Now, I want to play something here.
I'm at 217 signatures, but if I get to 218, what happens is I bypass the Speaker of the House, I bypass all the committees. They've had years to solve this problem. They haven't done it. And when I get to 218, I get the vote on my bill on the floor of the House. And guess what? This week, there was a special election, and the Democrat and the Republican in Arizona for this seat said they would sign my petition. And so one of them won. So now I'm at 218.
All right. That's a Republican. Those are Republicans clapping for him. He's speaking, in his district. And of course, Republicans want to come and see him, right? So that's Thomas Massie. He's not backing down. He's not intimidated. He's not giving Trump his fear.
I'm not going to give them my fear.
He's standing up for the victims. Now, I saw an interview with Julie K. Brown this morning. She is the reporter who broke the Epstein story back in 2007, and she works for the Miami Herald. And back in that period of time, they had more than 50 survivors fighting to indict and arrest and put Epstein behind bars. And now Mike Johnson is doing the Jeffrey Epstein shutdown because he's refusing to swear Adelita in. That's not something he's allowed to do, but he's doing it anyway. There's all these things that are happening you're not allowed to do that, but they're doing it anyway. But everything is turning. The tide is turning. The people, us leaders, are standing up against this. Oh, by the way, okay, here's another guy who made a video saying, I'm not afraid, and I hope you are not either. That's James Comey after he was just indicted by the DOJ. But the prosecutor quit. Trump appointed a prosecutor, and that prosecutor quit because there was not enough evidence for this, and a couple other indictments that Trump is ordering the DOJ to do. It's very interesting. Now, first of all, I want to say Lindsay Halligan is the pretty woman that Trump then replaced that person with. She's the prosecutor. Okay? She went to the wrong courtroom to put the indictment through, and she ended up giving them the paperwork that was actually a rejection of an indictment by the grand jury. And she was like, "Oh, is this what I signed? I don't know what's happening right now." So it's being called the Keystone Cop indictment or something like that. James Comey is saying, "I'm not afraid of this. I'm innocent. Let's have a trial." All right, that's where it's going. People are not afraid of this mobster bullying tactic anymore. People are super pissed. The farmers are super pissed. Argentina decided to sell soybeans to China. China should be buying the soybeans from us, but they're not because of Donald Trump and his stupid tariffs. Argentina just said, okay, we'll sell the soybeans to you, China. At the same time, Trump is bailing Argentina out because the doofus that got elected, maybe, in Argentina, the leader there, I'm not even going to say his name, is running it into the ground. They're filing for bankruptcy, but Trump is bailing them out with $20 billion. Are the farmers going to get $20 billion? And if they do, where's my $20 billion? I'm not a farmer who voted for Trump. Why does he get 20, get bailed out. Anyway, people are pissed. Everybody is getting pissed and turning on Trump. It really is happening. It's really turning. This was the thing I thought was going to be the most difficult, to get the Trump supporters to turn against him. And it is happening. They're not buying what he did to Charlie Kirk, whatever that is. They're not buying the story about what happened to Charlie Kirk. They're not buying the story about the other shooting that happened at an ICE facility, where then Kash Patel has a picture of bullets where somebody took a blue pen and put anti-ICE on the bullet. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. So, people are turning on Trump. This was the thing that I thought was going to be the hardest. I didn't think it was even going to be able to happen. And right at this moment, Kamala is back. And she's saying the things that the people are now ready to hear. She is saying things like, don't have too much nostalgia for our institutions and the way they have been working in this country, because we need to rebuild from the ground up, basically. She's talking about a new government. Okay? We're moving into a completely new era. And I can go through some of more information about another thing that is starting to get to be in the mainstream media. It's not quite mainstream media like MSNBC, but MSNBC did have a reporter go into detail about the disaster going on in Russia, and that Russia seems to be losing this war, and that Ukraine really can win and is in the process of winning. The White House, Donald Trump, is saying that now. So talk about the tide turning. What's going to happen when Putin loses power? Is he going to allow Donald Trump to remain in power? I don't know. Now, there's another thing that is finally getting reported, and I'm going to talk about that after we take a short break. You're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. If you like the music you hear here, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music link. You can find this and a lot of other music I've written throughout the years. And find us on YouTube by searching for Satellite View Podcast. Find our channel on YouTube, subscribe, it's free. And go to our website, it's satelliteviewpodcast.com. Sign up to be on our mailer. Here's something, okay? The chances of a candidate flipping all 88 counties from blue to red and winning all 7 swing states just above the recount thresholds in the 2024 election are 1 in 50 septillion. It's 9 sets of 3 zeros. That is septillion. Now, I don't think that's the actual statistic, but you get the point. Musk cheated in the 2024 election to ensure a Trump win. And the going into the detail of using Starlink is not yet being talked about, but a lot of other things are. David Pakman, he is a YouTube guy. I have watched him for he was on the radio for a while, for many years. I've listened to him for many years. He puts out good content. He's very honest. He's kind of a devil's advocate. He's very careful. And he had on as a guest Nathan Taylor, who is one of the heads of Election Truth Alliance that you've heard me talk about here on the show a lot. This is David Pakman said this was the most requested interview by his audience. And it's been up for 4 days, and it's gotten 2 million views. Now, Nathan Taylor has a degree in cybersecurity and information systems. He was a 25 Bravo computer tech in the Army, and he knows about network monitoring. He's done network monitoring of banks. He knows a lot about data analysis, and he has this study going on, and David Pakman interviewed him. I urge you to go to David Pakman. It's just David and then Pakman. Find his channel on YouTube and find this interview, because Nathan Taylor puts out a lot of the stuff that I've been telling you about on this podcast, but he does it in a quick, concise way. And it's very thorough about how at least 3 states he is convinced Kamala Harris overwhelmingly won, but he thinks that she won all of the swing states. And of course, you've heard about the whistleblower saying that she got 77% of the vote. I think I predicted 72% or something. I can't remember. I should go back and hear what I was talking about on election day. But I was saying it was going to be a blowout, and Kamala Harris was going to, wipe the floor with Donald Trump's fake hair. And then look what happened. I'm going to go through some details. This is on Politics Video channel on Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. On December 5th, 2024, a nonpartisan government election security organization called Smart Legislation filed a lawsuit because of incorrect vote counts in Rockland County, New York. In multiple districts, hundreds of voters chose the Democratic candidate Kirsten Gillibrand for Senate, but according to the results, 0 voters chose Kamala Harris for president. Statisticians say this is nearly impossible, and real Rockland County voters say it's not accurate. 9 voters signed affidavits swearing that their votes were not counted. Anecdotal, and this is a very small population here that we're talking about, but it's a whole county, and it's very important. Anecdotally, tons of other Democrats say they were turned away at the polls, told they had already voted, or checked their ballot online only to see it was rejected or never cast. As of this week, the case is moving forward after a New York Supreme Court judge ruled that discovery must proceed. The lawsuit seeks a full hand recount of all paper ballots to confirm the results. The report centers around ProVNV, a federally accredited lab responsible for certifying voting machines in key states like Pennsylvania, Florida, New Jersey, and California. In early 2024, the lab reportedly approved updates to ES&S voting systems, which about 75 or more % of the United States uses in presidential elections. The ES&S voting systems. These updates included new ballot scanners, printer reconfigurations, firmware upgrades, and a new electionware reporting system. Instead of labeling these as major changes, ProVNV classified them as de minimis, a term typically reserved for insignificant tweaks. This classification allowed them to bypass public scrutiny and avoid triggering full-scale testing or certification process. But watchdog group Smart Elections wasn't convinced. In their words, quote, "This wasn't just a glitch in some sleepy county. It was a stress test of our entire system," unquote. Soon after the machines went live, complaints began to surface. In Rockland County, New York, several voters testified under oath that their ballots did not match the official results. Senate candidate Diane Sayer reportedly lost votes in precinct after precinct. In one precinct, she lost about 40% of her votes. In another, again, more than 40% of her votes were counted. It wasn't just Senate candidates who saw odd results. In multiple Democratic-leaning areas, Kamala Harris's name was reportedly missing from the top of the ballot entirely. Voters said they couldn't even find her name to select. These same areas had high support for Democrats like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, yet Harris received 0 votes, a statistical anomaly that defies traditional voting patterns. Even more shocking, Donald Trump received 750,000 more votes than Republican Senate candidates in these districts. as reported by Dissent in Bloom, a political substack, that's not a split ticket voting. That's a mathematical anomaly. At the center of the controversy is the director of Pro-V&V. While he doesn't appear in the headlines, his lab certifies the machines that millions of Americans use to vote. According to the report, once the controversy began to gain traction, Pro-V&V's website went dark, leaving only a phone number and a generic email address. No public logs, no documentation, no comment. In May 2025, Judge Rachel Tangi, I don't know her last name, ruled that allegations raised by Smart Elections were credible enough to move forward. The case, Smart Legislation et al. V. Rockland County Board of Elections, is scheduled for hearing this fall. The most recent court hearing mentioned for this case was held on September 22nd. We talked about that here on the podcast. Discovery is going forward, and a trial is expected early next year. Okay, that's what that is going on in Rockland County. Other states are keeping a close eye on that. I'm going to quickly go through some of my blue sky reporting here, things that I've seen other people talking about. Republican Family Values MAGA Republican and former South Carolina State Representative Robert John R.J. May III. R.J. May III has been arrested and has pled guilty to distributing child sexual abuse material. He is married with 2 children. The Republicans, the ones who accuse other people of being pedophiles, you know that it's projection. They are the pedophiles. The Czech Republic president reposted on Instagram a picture of a farmer with a MAGA hat. I'm losing my farm, but at least it's the Gulf of America now. Okay, that was reposted by the Czech Republic president. Donald Trump is making us into a joke, or at least everybody thinks Donald Trump is a joke. We're going to be getting a little bit more into Ukraine, but this person writes, I want the world to read these numbers about the night attack. This is apparently what happened last night. Ukrainian Air Force downed or jammed 611 Russian drones and missiles out of 643. 566 drones out of 593. They jammed 2 jet-propelled drones. 35 kilohertz 101 missiles out of 38, so most of the missiles. So they stopped most of this horrible attack Russia was trying to do against Kyiv, the people of Kyiv, not military targets. Also, former FBI Deputy Director McCabe says he hasn't been contacted at all by the FBI about the Comey thing, and he adds, if my interactions with Comey was going to be the basis of this entire prosecution, it's unbelievable that prosecutors wouldn't at least want to sit down and hear what I have to say about it. Also, Lindsay Halligan, the beauty pageant winner that Donald Trump just appointed as being the, I think, the Eastern or Western District of Virginia prosecutor, she walked in all by herself. She doesn't even seem to be able to get staff to help her do this prosecution, and she has never done a prosecution in her life. With government funding set to expire Tuesday, Speaker Johnson refuses to bring the House back. He knows seating Adelita Grijalva, I got to get her name right. I wrote down how to say it here. Grijalva. Damn me. He knows seating Adelita Grijalva, just elected in Arizona, would trigger a vote on the Epstein files. That's why we're calling this the Epstein shutdown. Also, Andy McCarthy was on Fox News. He is a Fox News lawyer guy who comes on for commentary. And he said the indictment against Comey almost fails as an indictment in that it doesn't give you notice of what Comey has actually done. But factually, there's nothing there. So this smacks of wanting to put Comey through the process, which is what lawfare is. So on Fox News, they're having to say Donald Trump is weaponizing the DOJ and the government. There's so much more going on. Of course, within documents of Epstein's schedule, there is evidence that Peter Thiel and Steve Bannon had scheduled meetings with Epstein, as well as evidence of a pending trip by Elon Musk to Epstein's Island. That's on a new chapter of information given up to the Congress by the Epstein estate. Now, let's go into what is happening over in Ukraine. Again, Jason J. Smart. Find him on YouTube. Also find Anna from Ukraine on YouTube. There are more sources as well, but Jason J. Smart is basically saying the Kremlin is collapsing. Suicides are on the rise of oligarchs and other people in Russia. He said, this has happened before. They accidentally fall out of windows, or they get hung with their hands tied behind their back, and it's called a suicide. That's having a huge rise right now in that event happening. Generals are disappearing more and more. Putin's trying to put a 25% tax on companies who can't even make payroll to pay for his war. Okay? This is finally starting to be recognized. I heard a long report on it on MSNBC, Deadline White House show. Anna from Ukraine. She says an oil transport train has been found and blown up by Ukrainian drones. Moscow and St. Petersburg have drones in them coming and blowing up oil refineries and things like that. The people who live in Moscow and St. Petersburg, who have been told that they are winning this war by the Kremlin, are now seeing their own city being attacked deep inside Russia. And they're like, what's going on right now? What's going on? I mean, how horrible would that be? The trains are gone, and there's no gas for trucks. When the trains are gone, you got to transport your oil and your supplies to your soldiers and everything using trucks. There's no gas for the trucks. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, there's no gas. There's no gas. It's not that the prices have gone up and there's too little gas. There's no gas. And winter is coming. Russian airspace keeps getting closed down in major towns and cities. Anna remembers her childhood, the USSR, and how hard it was. Sometimes it took forever for her and her mom just to get something like butter. She remembers the fall of the USSR, and she congratulates Putin because Putin wanted to recreate the USSR, and she said, I guess he's doing a great job of recreating the USSR because the same thing's happening right now as happened when the USSR collapsed. There's old stories about in Russia. They call it general winter, and they say that nobody can invade Russia because of general winter. And they're just talking about how harsh the winters are in Russia. It can get down to 22 below zero Fahrenheit. Of course, it does that in Minnesota here too. But they're saying that, back in 1707, Charles XII of Sweden tried to invade Russia. All his guys froze to death. Napoleon tried it again in 1812. His guys froze to death. Hundreds of thousands of guys. The Nazis tried it again in 1941. Same thing. But now, General Winter may be betraying Russia this year because Ukraine also has very harsh winters. And they're ready. And they are kicking ass right now. So much so that Donald Trump had to turn around and say, Ukraine can win this war if they get some help. Little bit of help, he's saying, from Europe. But they are getting a little bit of help from Europe. And they have been developing on their own. And they have obviously surpassed. There's a town called Oleksivka. And it's held by Russia. And Ukraine has moved into it and taken the land. The Russian commanders keep throwing soldiers into what they're calling the meat grinder instead of coming up with a safe retreat plan. Colonel General Alexander Le Pen was fired and removed from service. Putin does not do this. He puts him somewhere else because he doesn't want morale to be broken down by, saying that he's firing everybody. But he fired this colonel general. So it's a mess. Russia is collapsing. The finances are impossible. And it really looks like Ukraine is going to win this war soon. It really looks like the Kremlin's going to fall. Not to mention, inside the Kremlin, there's fighting going on because the other people are like, Putin's crazy, man. We can't afford this war. We can't do this. And we're just losing guys. And the population now is turning as well. I mean, it's dire for the Kremlin. And finally, it's getting in the press here in the United States. So this is what I'm talking about, in that everything is turning. Everything is turning worldwide. But people are turning against Trump, even his supporters here in the United States. Fox can no longer just blatantly lie. They have to admit this Comey indictment. Here's a big difference. Trump, I talked about it last week. He put out what looked like it was supposed to be a text to Pam Bondi, but he released it as, I'm going to call it a tweet, on whatever his Truth Social thing is, and for all the world to see. And he's telling her, hey, you need to indict these people right now. And now they have indicted James Comey. Trump usually just is like, oh, I can't do that? Well, I just did, so fuck you. Here's the difference. He took that down. He took that tweet, or whatever you want to call it, he took it down. Trump never does that. So what's different? What has he been told that's different than all the other times he's done these things? Something is different about this. This is a huge story. I was astonished by how all of media was saying this is the biggest scandal in presidential history, the indictment of James Comey. I was surprised because I was like, okay, really? Seems like there's bigger scandals than that, and there are. But the media wasn't reporting on. The media is just barely starting to report on the possibility in their mind that Kamala won the 2024 presidential election. And they're saying this James Comey thing is the biggest scandal. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So anyway, I think I've gotten through everything here. And I think I've told you some things that you haven't heard elsewhere. But I think you're going to start hearing some of this stuff. And that is a really, really good sign. A really good sign that things are starting to we're going to fix it. It's going to get fixed. And we're the fixers. All right? So let's stick together. Be good to yourself. Take a walk. Get under the weather's beautiful still here in Minnesota. Get out in the weather. Get under the trees. Get under the stars at night and gaze up at them. Do the things that you love to do in life. Be with the people that you love to hang out with in life, whoever they are. Don't let this piece of crap take any of that away from you. Let's all stick together. We're getting through this together. We're getting through this. We are empowered to get him out of there and get things set back to right. You and me. All right? So let's keep at it. We're getting through it. It's looking way better. So again, thank you so much for being here with me on A Satellite View. I will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.